Senator Johnson, thank you for being here with us today. Now, you've represented the Dallas area in the state Senate since 2019. What led you to run for the Texas Attorney General's office?
It's a really important moment to have an effective attorney general in office, particularly coming from the Democratic side. I hate to be too partisan about this stuff, and I have a record for working well across the aisle. But at the moment, there's such a pull from the attorney general's office to run it as a political machine for the far right. I think we have many Republicans in the state, many Democrats in the state think that that office ought to be much less partisan, much more interested in upholding the rule of law, a guardian of competition in the marketplace. And I think that the attorney general has neglected its fundamental responsibilities, ranging from child support to regulation of private markets to ensuring that the legislature and the governor follow the rule of law. It's time for somebody in that office who can be effective. It's important at a state level and at a national level. So I'm really trying to go where I think I can be most useful at this moment, and it's the attorney general's office.
I want to go back to your time in the legislature. If you had to tell voters about one bill you wrote or one vote you took that you feel defines who you are, what would you mention?
I think I'd say that's Senate Bill 1296, and that's from a couple sessions ago. I've been the number one voice in this state on Medicaid expansion for some time, but we were unable to move it. But in the process of working on that, I discovered a way, a pretty technical way, to bring down billions in federal subsidies to allow low-income working Texans to purchase private health care on the private market. I passed that bill working with a Republican in the House, Democrats in the Senate, Republicans and Democrats in both chambers. It's been independently estimated that the passage of that bill has resulted in 350,000 Texans being able to afford health insurance and purchase it on the private marketplace for the first time in their lives. It was really a highlight of my Senate career.
Now, I want to go into a bit of your one of your goals if elected Attorney General. You know, you've said that one of your goals is to make life more affordable. How would you plan on doing so?
You know, the attorney general is not a legislator, but the attorney general is charged constitutionally with governing corporate behavior, making sure that there is not price gouging, that there's not predatory lending, predatory pricing. Cornering of markets, gaining so much leverage that you have control over prices. There needs to be a balance of power between consumers and ownership and business. We need to make sure that business doesn't become so powerful that it owns the levers of government and then structures the law in order to keep their ownership of the marketplace. When you have a more competitive market, you have better prices, you have better products. We've seen that over 100 years of successful market competition. If government's not there to make sure that the markets aren't working, prices go up. I will absolutely force businesses to compete to make better products for cheaper prices. And Michael, can I just throw in one little odd piece of this interview for just a moment, if I may? You'll see I'm wearing a seatbelt. I'm in odd lighting. I'm on my way to Dilley, Texas. This is not a normal campaign day. I'm going as a state senator and as an attorney general candidate to what we're calling a residential it's a detention facility where a 5-year-old boy, among many other kids, are presently being held in violation of their established constitutional rights, in violation of federal law. So we're trying to run a normal campaign. We're trying to be a normal senator. But I'm obliged right now to go see what's going on in the middle of a very difficult moment for our country. And I do want your viewers to understand how intense of a political moment this is and how important the attorney general's office is to establishing a normal observation of the rule of law in this country.
Can you talk to me a bit more about that event you are going
So
to?
I'd love to. Yes, there's a kid. There's a lot of people there, but the one that's received the most attention is a kid named Leon Conejo Ramos and his father. They were picked up by ICE in Minnesota and sent to a detention facility in Texas. As I understand it from multiple sources, that family has applied for asylum in the US and under United States law has every legal right to be here. And the federal government had no right to detain, apprehend, abduct, or incarcerate them. and they're there right now. And I think that people might say, oh, we're in the middle of a big immigration sweep. Mistakes can be made, or actually we really do need to detain them. I don't buy that, Michael, because as soon as somebody's constitutional rights become optional, all of our rights become optional. So I'm going there on behalf of the people who are unlawfully detained. I'm going there to see if the conditions are humane and if we can hold ourselves up as a dignified country. And I'm going there on behalf of everybody's constitutional rights to make sure that they are observed by the federal government and the state government. And as an attorney general candidate, I think our attorney general should be involved in this as well. But unpredictably, we have silence from Ken Paxton today.
I do want to ask, do you feel that anyone in the state is currently being, unlawfully detained? And if so, what can the Texas Attorney General's office really do about that in your view?
I do feel that there are multiple people being unlawfully detained, particularly people who have pending asylum applications, who have complied with U.S. law and immigration procedures. They are being detained in violation of United States law. I'm still exploring all the different things an attorney general's office could do. I'm campaigning for attorney general. I don't have the 800 lawyers that Ken Paxton has, but just in my preliminary review over a few hours in the last couple of days, we could be issuing civil investigative demands, exploring the conditions on which these are held. Perhaps we could be suing the federal government for violating our own laws. Those are steps I would be taking immediately right now. Also, as I understand it, the governor of Texas has suspended regulations that would apply to these private detention facilities in the context of holding immigrants. I don't know that the governor has the authority to do that. So, as attorney general, I'd be having conversations and more with the governor's office to make sure that the standards that we apply for taking care of children in detention facilities are applied in all detention facilities for all children.
Now, I do want to go back to one of your previous responses relating to affordability. You mentioned that you wanted to see, a more competitive marketplace. And I do want to ask you, how specifically can you do that? Because some may say, the Texas economy is doing well. The Comptroller of Public Accounts said back in 2024, if Texas were its own country, it'd be the eighth largest in the world. So what's your response?
I think the Texas economy continues to grow, and that's a wonderful thing. And we continue to have 14% poverty rate, and that's a terrible thing. No matter how many jobs we create, we still have an overwhelming percentage of our population living below the poverty level. And if anybody knows what the poverty level, it's the line below which you can't really live. So affordability does not mean that you have a roaring stock market. It does not mean that you have relocation of corporate headquarters. It means people can be able to afford a box of cereal and a fresh apple. And those are the problems that we have, or housing. And those are the things that need to be addressed. And when we have overly concentrated markets that have no interest in putting grocery stores in food deserts, or that are scooping up apartment complexes or multifamily residential facilities or single family homes, or supply chains in the healthcare space, or owning our big tech companies that channel everything through them and pick pieces of profit after profit after profit. I think there's not a whole lot of money left over, if we can disaggregate corporate power and force a much more traditional American notion of the marketplace where we have multiple competitors competing for price and quality, we will see innovative marketing techniques, innovative products, more honest sales, more honest competition, and lower prices. It's great that our economy is growing. It's great that we have businesses coming here, but we've got to make sure that Texas doesn't just become an extraction machine. We're not a gold mine for people to come and take money and send it to shareholders outside the state. We live here. And we got to make sure that when businesses come here, they operate in good conscience and good faith and employ people and pay a living wage and respect local economies and respect our environment. And all that comes if we force people to observe our laws and compete with each other to gain the public favor.
I do want to ask, how much of a role do you see the Texas Attorney General's office having in terms of increasing affordability compared to the legislature or compared, to the federal government?
It's a great question. I think we're going to need things out of the state legislature, and we're going to need things out of the federal government, and it may surprise some, but I actually want to praise some of the work done under the Paxton Attorney General's office. Just recently, the Attorney General's office achieved a settlement agreement with a hotel chain for applying a bunch of junk fees. You go rent a hotel room, and the rate's supposed to be $78, and you end up paying $130, and I, I didn't know that I had a fee for clean sheets, right? So the Attorney General's office can make sure that corporations aren't using this new model of tacking fees onto everything. For example, the Attorney General's office can go after big tech for the throttling they've done in the marketplace, and they've done some good work there. There's a lot of places the Attorney General's office can ensure that consumers are not getting scammed and not getting gouged. But you're right, Michael. We're going to need action, legislative action by state and federal government.
You praised some of the work of the Attorney General's office under Attorney General Ken Paxton there. I do want to ask you, though, what specifically would you like to see changed regarding the Attorney General's office?
Overall, the good work that I just praised, unfortunately, is the exception. Generally, Paxton has turned that office into a propaganda machine. Which is not the function of the office. The framers of the Texas Constitution distrusted concentration of power anywhere in government, in the private marketplace, and that office is supposed to be there to ensure that everybody, government and private entities, follow the rules. Instead, what Paxton does is he sues Catholic charities. He sues organizations that register people to vote. Just day after day, he files a lawsuit designed to get a headline. And if you're out there getting headlines on things that rile up your base, by definition, your employees aren't doing the daily work that they're supposed to be doing. So what I would change is I would direct the energies of the 4,000 employees and 800 lawyers with our $1 billion budget in the Attorney General's office to the constitutional duties that we have, not pleasing a Democratic presidential administration or a Republican presidential administration by filing lawsuits that gain attention and peddle a political narrative, or uses that office for is to persecute political opponents, Republican and Democrat. It's not an office for persecution. It's not an office for propaganda. It's for doing the real work of making sure that we do not have corruption in politics, we don't have price gouging and concentration in markets, and that we're cooperating with district attorneys and county attorneys around the state to keep crime off of our streets.
Who do you, if I understand you correctly, it sounds like you feel the Attorney General's office has persecuted some political enemies. If I heard you correctly, can you delve more into that? Who exactly has been persecuted in your view?
I mean, I'll give you the kind of most ironic example coming from a Democratic candidate for Attorney General, which is the Republican members of the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. These were judges that were elected to the highest criminal court in Texas that ruled that the Attorney General did not have constitutional authority to prosecute election crimes. Now, these are jurists, and as a jurist, as a lawyer myself, I will tell you they're correct. They ruled correctly that the Constitution didn't allow the Attorney General to take the action he took. They issued that opinion. So Ken Paxton campaigned against them, used his war chest as the Attorney General to primary them in a Republican election and get them out of office. And he succeeded. He is changing the law for political purposes. Now, I can only hope that the people who are now elected to that court will have the judicial independence and integrity to uphold the Constitution. But it's a threat.
Now, earlier in this interview, you talk about the size of the Attorney General's office. I mean, you'd be responsible for hundreds of attorneys. Why do you believe you have the experience to lead an agency of that scale?
It's actually a great question. I've never led a 4,000 person operation. You know, most attorneys general did not formally operate Walmart or something that had hundreds and thousands of employees. I do work with a sizable number of people in the Capitol. I'm constantly coordinating efforts among staff and senators and House members and agencies. I work with great numbers of people all the time, trying to direct them to a result, whether we're talking about healthcare or housing or electricity. I'm very familiar with working with hundreds of professionals experts, advocates in a variety of contexts. I will apply that kind of experience to this. And the other thing, Michael, in all humility, but also in terms of being responsible to run an agency of that size, I'm going to have people who have been there for decades by my side, guiding our actions. And I'm going to look to their expertise and experience with the office to make sure that I handle it correctly. That's something Ken Paxton has not been able to do. People with institutional experience have left that office so awful and it violates their conscience to work for him. I had people like that contact me during my campaign that says we would like to help you run a successful office. So I'm very much looking forward to working with people who've worked with Republican and Democrat attorneys general in the past and running that office well.
Now, you have said, it's my understanding you've said that you would not enforce unconstitutional laws. A recently passed Texas law would mandate that the Ten Commandments be placed on a poster in every public school classroom. That law, Senate Bill 10, is currently facing legal challenges. In your view, should Senate Bill 10 be declared unconstitutional? Why or why not?
It is patently unconstitutional. It should be declared unconstitutional. It is violation of very fundamental constitutional principles of separation of church and state. I can't, in the course of this interview, outline a legal brief, but there are very, very few legal or jurisprudential experts who believe that there's any constitutional basis for upholding that law. As Attorney General, the state's position is I have the constitutional duty and prerogative of articulating the state's position on whether or not legislation is constitutional, and the brief that I would file would say that it is not.
And going off of that,
It's politically bad, but it's constitutionally flawed. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You mentioned, as Attorney General, you may have to enforce some laws you may not agree with. How would you go about, doing that?
That's a question that fascinates the media. Most of the time that the legislature passes a law I don't like, it's not going to wind up an issue for the attorney general. It's only an issue for the attorney general when the statute is challenged on the basis of its enforceability, either under the federal or state constitution or under other state or federal laws. Just me disliking a law doesn't mean I'm going to have to defend it. On the other hand, there may be laws that I disagree with ideologically, that are challenged, that are not unconstitutional, that don't violate any state or federal law. And I will have to defend the legislature's right to pass bad laws. And that will be my job, and I will do it. If, however, I think that the law is unenforceable, it is not my job to defend the legislature's actions or the governor's wishes. If the law is unenforceable for statutory or constitutional reasons, I will make sure it's stricken down.
Do you see yourself working
because Michael, Michael, I just want to clarify the representing the state of Texas does not mean being the private lawyer of the legislature or the governor. It means representing the people and the interests of the state of Texas. And I'm sorry, you had another question for me.
Oh, you're good. I do want to ask, do you see yourself working with the legislature, maybe telling them, hey, this law that's, currently being looked at, it could be viewed as unconstitutional. We would not, we would say, as the Attorney General's office, we don't want to see this enforced.
I'm sorry, one more time?
No
I didn't quite understand the question.
No,
I apologize.
Oh, you're good. Do you see yourself, potentially working with the legislature and telling them, representatives, we don't see this law that you're working on passing as being, constitutional. We don't think it's constitutional. We would advise you not to pass it.
Michael, I think that is a really astute question, and I'm glad you're asking it. And I hope your listeners are hearing it, because it is the role of the Attorney General, not just to be an after-the-fact antagonist or supporter of laws, but to work directly with the legislature to advise the legislature, advise the governor, advise the agencies on what is constitutional, what is not, what is enforceable, what is not, how it interacts with other laws, and guide the legislative process. As a legislator, I have worked with the Attorney General's office on legislation to make sure that they're able to do their jobs and that the laws that we pass work the way they're supposed to. So yes, I would absolutely, and I have good relationships with the legislature. I've passed 135 bills as a Democrat in a Republican-led legislature. I will use those good relationships with Democrats and Republicans in the legislature to assist the legislative process so we don't wind up in court arguing over the enforceability and constitutionality of our laws.
Let's talk AI. Of course, a big subject. During the last legislative session, you authored a bill creating a criminal offense for a person who, with the intent to deceive and influence the result of an election, creates or distributes an altered image. Why was it important for you to author this bill, and how do you view the legality of artificial intelligence?
I think it's important for legislators to be looking ahead. Artificial intelligence itself is developing in real time. Our ability to use it is developing in real time. Our ability to misuse it is developing rapidly in real time. So I don't think it's something that we can wake up 5 years from now and write some laws. I think we need to look forward. And I authored legislation because even before AI burst onto the scene, I saw people using the power of technology to manipulate what people are seeing in an election. They're using it to scam people, particularly older adults who get calls from a fake simulated voice of their grandson, right, saying, "Give me money, I'm in jail." So whether you're altering elections or scamming people out of money and playing on their emotions, I don't want to wait around and let AI cause a bunch of damage. I think we need to get some laws in place. People have to use it appropriately. It can be beneficial. Um, and I'm working in real time to make sure that we use artificial intelligence for productive purposes, not injurious ones.
And I do want to ask, just to kind of clarify this a bit, we just saw Attorney General Ken Paxton release a campaign ad showing an AI video of incumbent Senator John Cornyn and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett dancing together. In your view, should that ad be pulled down, be viewed as illegal?
I think it should have a giant, all caps, bright white or bright red letters across the bottom that says this is artificial, generated by artificial intelligence. This is not real. You can put whatever you want. You can put pictures of politicians' heads on a goat body. I don't care. If you're trying to make people believe something happened that didn't happen, that should be illegal. And in the case of the artificial dancing duo of John Cornyn and Jasmine Crockett, if you're trying to make people think that they actually are out dancing because they're that good of friends, that should be illegal. And that's why a disclaimer should be sufficient. Have fun with your silly campaign ads, but make sure people aren't misled into thinking that's real.
All right, Senator, we are just over a month away from the March 3rd primary. Is there anything I didn't ask you would like to add?
No, I'm delighted to talk with you this morning. This is an excellent conversation. I'm so glad you're bringing this to your viewers, and I hope they'll engage in what I think is one of the most important elections in the country right now. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to reach your viewers.
Democratic State Senator Nathan Johnson, he's running for Texas Attorney General. Senator Johnson, we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Michael.